See, this is dead. You want about that much, because this much is going to be in the pot. And then we're going to dip it in the rooting hormone. Yeah. And then we'll fill these with soil, get them wet, cut it, dip it in the hormone, and then stick it straight into there as quick as possible. So right after you cut it, you want to have it exposed to air for the least amount of time possible.
Okay, so cut, dip, and plant.
Put it in there.
Okay. And we don't need water?
Yeah, well, we'll fill these up with soil first, and then get them all organized on there, and then we can just go through, cut them, dip them, and then go right down the row.
And isn't it fairly important to cut it at a certain place underneath the...
Right, yeah, you want to cut right underneath a node. And these are kind of sprouting already, the buds are about to break, so a little bit late, but I think that's
And does it matter, is it straight or angled?
easier to stick in, and if you're doing a bunch at a time, if you cut it at an angle, you can always tell which way is down. If you do it upside down, it won't always work. It might work, but
there's more surface area for roots to grow.
Right.
And accept the rooting hormone too.
Is this too thin for one?
Yeah, that one's too thin. So you want to about pencil, nothing smaller than a pencil.
Yeah, it's like this
diameter.
is the smallest thing.
And you want to have more nodes underground than above ground. So now this gets hard on big material like this, where if you have a 1 gallon plant, it's going to be hard to get several nodes underground. That may not work, but that would be ideal, is to have multiple
So the roots
nodes.
will kind of come off of the nodes more?
So the node is where you have undifferentiated cells. Okay, that's like stem cells. That's the equivalent. Those are cells that haven't decided what they want to be yet. And those are all in the nodes. So what we're doing then is we're dipping these in a rooting hormone, which is telling these nodes, please be a root. Don't be a flower, don't be a leaf, please be a root. And most of the concentration of those cells are in the nodes. So you don't want to cut at the node because you don't want to damage the node. You want to cut, like Andrew said, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch below the node at an angle. Stick it right in the rooting hormone, and we'll do all this. We'll do it all together. So
These are different from those, right? This is
so that's willow. This is sycamore. Yeah. Yeah. So first thing before we start cutting would be to get our pots ready.
Right, and they're right there, and the soil's right there. Right?
The soil's right here. Okay. And look, we're all hosed off, and thank you everybody for helping to move all those.
In the nursery industry, that's called rotation. We just rotated the pot from one bench to the next.
And what'd we find? As we were rotating, what'd we find?
Lots of frogs, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. Were there frogs?
3 frogs.
There were frogs.
Really?
No, frogs are fine. Frogs are no problem.
What we did see is bird damage, though, in the seeds that you sowed last week.
And one of the reasons to do rotation is it helps you check for pathogens, for slugs and snails. It's trying to do the same. So the reason you want to be quick is because you want the plant up to this stuff. Yeah, and not
And then how long do you leave it in?
you really only need to leave it in like 30 seconds or something. It doesn't matter if it's 2 minutes. At some point it's not going to suck up anymore anyway. Balancing your space issue, with the odds of it, with the odds of it taking. And then we'll get a couple tags for it. And those are a wee bit on the thin side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't all these too small?
Yeah. Yep. This is a nice one. Like these 3 in here, those are nice. These 2, those are nice. I would cut off this. You know, you don't want to confuse the plant. You want to ask it to do one thing right now, and that's just to root.
They can't obviously get any higher because the road is in the way with the bridge. So they like to hang out right there in that little pool, and you just do little sweeps with nets and take them out and count them and see how big they are, find any, and
Do you measure them?
measure them, yeah, and
You
separate
have to
them.
weigh them?
No, don't weigh them, just measure how
Can you
long
tell
they are.
boys from girls?
Someone probably can, I can't. I don't know. Yeah. You have to separate them from the other fish, and then they go in their own cooler, and they get moved downstream into a nice place, and the other fish get moved as well. But the protocol says they have to be separated. And they're pretty hardy little guys for being endangered.
How come you have to move them?
Well, the last couple of times we've been sampling over there is because they're doing the desilting for the flood control. So
So they don't get picked up by the excavator.
By the
Okay.
excavator, yeah.
All right.
So you're saving them from the big scooper?
Yeah. Otherwise, they would
Otherwise,
wind
they'd end up at
your
the county
dump.
campus, right?
Right, they
Yeah.
would. They would wind
There'd
up.
be all these little gobies all, oh, what happened?
Some
spilled. Some
Pardon
of
me?
it spilled.
That's okay. It won't hurt anything. It won't hurt anything.
Great.
We might grow some bizarre grass. We knew more about the wetland plants and this ecosystem than anybody else, so we're supposed to be the pros. Thank you. We'll do the job. They had to bring heavy equipment in here. They ran it over the top of the pipe with an X-ray machine. They checked for any kind of imperfections in the welds. They checked on the diameter of the pipe for rust and stuff like that. And they need to do it every 5 years. The last 5 years ago when they did it, some other company seeded Atroplex lentiformis, the quail bush there and there, right? Sure. Well, the problem with that is every 5 years it grows up into a big bush, and then they got to run it over and kill it again. So he said, can you come up with a pallet where heavy machinery can run over it and it won't kill it? So we picked Distichylus spicata, the saltgrass. We picked Sarconia virginica, the pickleweed, or Sarconia pacifica. Used to be Salicornia virginica. And then we put in some of this naphthalum, right?
No, that is Spurgularia.
Spurgularia.
Macrotheca.
And the reason we put this in is because it's a sort of a rare plant. It can get run over, but also we need enough places to collect seed from down the road. So we use 3 low-growing species that hopefully a tractor can drive over and not kill it. We have a 3-year maintenance contract on it, which means we got to keep it weed-free for 3 years, and then we're done. It's what, 20-some thousand bucks worth of work? 20-some thousand bucks. In order to keep the weeds down, you can see we're putting a real thick layer of mulch, and then coming in and hand weed. If we were just to let this go to, weeds, we would lose our money on this contract.
Look just right next door here. Now one of the problems with this project is the other side of this pipeline is outside of our project area.
So it's just going to seed right into our site.
I'm thinking of a little gorilla restoration there.
Gorilla?
The other
Just weed it
issue-
without, without being asked. Yeah, without permission.
The county has a policy, and and their policy translate into this 8-foot arm mower thing that they drive down this bike path. And we could plant beautiful native shrubs up to the edge of the bike path.
And they mow it every year.
And they would still mow it every year. Hence that beautiful Lamus condensatus that we walked by
Will be mowed.
that has no dead old last year's growth on it because every year it gets mowed. For grass, that's fine, it's beautiful. It makes it a little tough to manage a native landscape. It also makes it tough to control weeds. It's not what I would call a particularly sound policy. I suspect the counties, their reasoning is public safety. They want visual so that there's no,
People lurking out
No
in the bushes and
pervs
attacking
lurking,
somebody. Yeah.
attacking the joggers. They want fire safety.
In case somebody throws a cigarette out when they're riding by.
So that's probably they're not concerned about weeds. It's fast.
Never go back to that. Me too.
Mulch everywhere.
We want a bit of mortality right in the